Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media, St. Louis's home for arts, education, and culture.
We're still figuring this out, but I think we're going to get there.
I wanted to be able to transform it into different scenarios.
It's really an amazing experience when you come down here every Saturday night.
Today on Spotlight, St. Louis once had a popular style of house named after a fish. Plus, a heartwarming story about the power of books inspired by a true story. And then helping injured songbirds, how this Missouri nonprofit caters to birds across the state. But first, a new app hoping to give consumers a better way to access premium content. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
Oh, here's a story that looks interesting. Nope. Oh, wait, here's another. Social media teasing you with information to pique your interest, but you have to pay for it when you scroll across something really interesting.
You hit a paywall and says, you have to subscribe, or your 3 free articles this month, or you have to go into, some anonymous mode or use your kid's browser or some, crazy stuff. Like, I hate when somebody sends me an article and I can't read it, and that happens all the time.
Jim McKelvey says no more. He's making this invisible with the Invisibly app.
Right. There's no commenting.
McKelvey is a serial entrepreneur, co-founder of Block, formerly known as Square. Among Block products, Cash App. McKelvey is a self-made billionaire from doing what he does best.
I'm driven with frustrations with problems I can't solve. Or haven't been solved.
So McKelvey launched a new problem-solving company in St. Louis called Invisibly. Invisibly was created because, okay, let's go back.
Haven't been solved. I hate when, and I can't read it.
That's part of the problem. But the idea for Invisibly was actually to solve an even bigger problem.
I was in Miami talking to the Miami Herald, and I was giving this lecture about, programming in Southern Florida, and a reporter raised her hand and she says, I don't care anything about what you just talked about for the last hour. How are we going to save journalism? That got me invited to this sort of secret conclave of big publishers whose names I still can't share. These were media companies that 7 years ago now asked me if I would build them something like this, because they realized they couldn't build it themselves. And they're all in the same boat, which is the internet model where their content can be stolen and resold has wiped their revenues out. And without them, we can't get truth anymore. We need publishers to have money. Otherwise, sort of truth goes away. So I was very compelled by what they wanted to do. And so I started Invisibly. The problem we solve for the publishers is getting paid. They need money. We pay them.
So Invisibly is meant to help everyone engage with print media content.
Right now, we give you access to all the news. We have relationships with literally hundreds and hundreds of publishers. We have a backload of probably 1,000 publications.
Publishers are getting paid for their content without inconveniences for users. App users are buying subscriptions.
You should pay for it. But if you pay for it with one of the Invisibly tools, it feels invisible. It feels like you're just walking through these paywalls. Invisibly makes those paywalls invisible.
People can do this without spending a dime of their own money because they are also paid.
So you will give us a login and a password to your bank account. And we can't touch the money, but what we can do is see where you spend that money. That information is super valuable. That value then gets paid to you in an account. So you get paid, and then you spend that account to access stuff that would normally be behind paywalls. Every week, we'll go out and we take your data and we sell it. So that marketers know how to, they know how their products are doing. I mean, that data is actually valuable. Well, first of all, your bank sells it anyway, so it's not like the information isn't out there. But we are the first time somebody will have asked you for this transaction.
Points are used to buy and unlock premium subscriptions and paywalled articles.
Every month, we're going to pay you, and it's going to go into this account. So you give us this login one time, and if it doesn't creep you out, then every week we'll sell your data and take that money and give you 85% of it. We take a 15% cut. You're not getting blasted with spam. And we're not selling your contact information. So it doesn't increase the amount of advertising you get. If you're like creeped out by the idea of selling financial data, which half the population is, cool, take surveys.
Users may even feel engaged answering surveys that create some fun moments, while other surveys may be more serious and rewarding. They earn points, which is like earning money.
So you basically give us your attention or you give us your information. And we then take that information, go out and sell it. We're like your agent. 85% of the money back to you in the form of content.
Articles unlocked, publishers paid, and cravings for information satisfied.
We're still figuring this out. I mean, it's been 7 years and we're still figuring it out. But I think we're going to get there. And the reason I think this is because a year ago, I wasn't using the product myself every day. And now I am using it every day.
And it's getting a great start in St. Louis.
I want one no action activity, which is just give me everything. It was my hometown. I mean, I grew up here. I hope that some of the things that I'm doing will be copied by others. St. Louis has somehow become conservative, and not politically conservative, just like we're afraid to take risks. We're afraid to do stupid stuff. So I hold myself out as sort of a beacon of stupidity that other St. Louis can go, oh, well, it worked for him, I mean, nothing. Yeah. Just throw the ball. Okay.
I don't know that we're intelligently choosing that. We're just picking the...
Go to hecmedia.org for the arts and authors,
Completely accidental because I never set out to write a book.
science and history, culture and community,
It's considered to be the oldest organic farm west of the Mississippi.
education, films,
Finding the coin places the site firmly in the 13th century.
what's happening now around St. Louis, and more. See for yourself at hecmedia.org.
History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis. During the Civil War, vernacular architecture thrived in the city, resulting in some interesting designs. Community Tours manager Amanda Clark explains how the Flounder-style house of this time got its name.
So St. Louis has so many great historical architectural styles, but there's one in particular that to me is the most peculiar, and those are the ones that look like a house sliced in half, and they're known as flounder houses. So a flounder house gets its name from looking like a flounder fish, which is a fish that lays on its side and all of its mouth and its eyes are on the other side. A flounder house has one bare wall, a roof that slopes pretty steep, and then all its doors and windows are all on that one side as well. Most flounders built in the United States were built between the mid to late 19th century, and they can be found tucked away in Philadelphia, in Alexandria, Virginia, but in St. Louis we have over 275 of them still standing, and they were built at a time when the city was growing rapidly and space was at a premium. And while no one knows exactly for sure why they were such a popular style here in St. Louis, architectural historians have several really good theories. There's one theory in particular, though, that's been passed down, and before we had architectural historians to correct us, it was passed down that these houses, which look like half houses, were a way to trick the taxman and lower your tax bill because they were only half a house. That makes a really great story. It is not true. What is most likely, and there's a really simple answer, and that's simplicity. This housing style with its simple roof could go up and be built quickly. It didn't have the complex joinery of St. Louis's other popular historic roof type, the mansard roof. And so it was something that could be built quickly. It could be built up to the property line on a small urban lot. It also directed water away from your neighbors, so it was pretty neighbor friendly. And it was a housing style that you could add on to later. So you find a lot of flounder houses towards the back of a lot with a bigger house in the front. Flounders are what we call vernacular architecture, meaning they reflect the local traditions of those that built them and lived in them. So in St. Louis, they're built as part of a quickly evolving urban environment. So they're built up close to other buildings. They're mostly all built out of our beautiful red brick. That's a local material. And a lot of them have this long side porch, this galley porch along one side that would have been perfect for escaping, the heat in the summer in St. Louis.
Next week on History Spotlight, the story behind the shocking 1944 St. Louis Browns pennant win.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
Poland was the first country attacked by Hitler's armies. Although occupied by the Nazis from 1939 to 1944, the Polish people preserved their culture by hiding books. Warsaw's underground libraries inspired Madeline Martin's latest novel, The Keeper of Hidden Books. It's the story of a brave young woman in Warsaw who fights to save her culture, her community, and her dearest friend, who is sent to the Jewish ghetto. The book's narrator, Zofia, forms a secret book club as an act of resistance.
With the book club, as they're reading these books, it's almost like peeling back layers of Zofia. And each book that she reads really reveals to her a new sort of perspective in her life that she had never really considered before.
Martin's newest novel is about the power of books to bring us together and to provide solace in difficult times.
I found these incredible journals that librarians had written during the Nazi occupation about their efforts and what they were doing to save books from Nazi destruction. When the Nazis first came into Poland, one of their original goals was to pretty much either murder or incarcerate 85% of the population and really just leave the remaining 15% as slave labor. So they really attacked the Polish culture and obviously the Jewish culture as well. And they really wanted to, they closed all the museums, they were destroying books, they weren't allowed to play any music, and the libraries were also closed as well. And so they were trying, they were looting books, they were pulping books. And so these librarians actually were, they were detailing their efforts of what they were doing to save these books and hide them away. They had a hidden warehouse, which they never did end up disclosing where that location was. But they did have a secret library when the libraries were closed that they actually still lent out books to patrons. And I did find the address for that one, but unfortunately it was destroyed in the Warsaw Uprising.
Zofia, in her efforts to keep books alive, is just so compelling. I wanted to ask you to elaborate on that, how these characters came to be, because they're so well-formed.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Honestly, if a character has any more than 2 or 3 lines, the odds are I have an entire story that nobody will ever know about. And I actually, it's funny because I actually pull up pictures online from that time period and I use those pictures. So I can never share them because it might be somebody's grandmother. At one point, my dad was looking through them and he looked at one picture and he said, "Is that Bing Crosby?" And it was actually, but it was also Antoine from The Librarian's Guide. Okay. So, but I just like having that visual for those characters. And then I have an entire background. I have what they want, their parents. I really do flesh things out. And when I was first writing the book, it was going to be a dual protagonist where I was going to have Zofia and Janina's point of view. But then when I found the information about the libraries, I knew that it was just too big. Already trying to write from September 1939 all the way through May 1945, it was like trying to put lightning into a jar. And then adding in that extra element, it was just coming out all over the place. And so I realized, okay, I just need to have one protagonist, which of course meant I had to completely redraw Zofia's character and kind of soften some of the harder edges a little bit more that Janina would have offset. So it was quite the undertaking.
Martin had over 15 spiral-bound notebooks filled with handwritten notes to create this book. To find out how much of those notes she actually used, watch the full interview at hecmedia.org.
They are the best-selling authors and all of your favorite genres. For in-depth, one-on-one interviews, go to hecmedia.org.
My name is Vaughn Davis. I'm an artist who lives and works in St. Louis who makes abstract paintings. This specific body of work is the fabric of our time. After I had gone to different museums and looked at so many paintings, I was really interested in creating a new form of mark making that did not require traditional elements, including a brush, essentially. So I wanted to create a mark that was completely different, and to me, a way of doing that was to tear a canvas. I wanted to become comfortable with something that was unfinished or messed up. The idea of that was to manipulate time and to show time in the work and very much show my hands in a painting. My process starts out with an unprimed sheet of canvas that is then painted on both sides. So I was really interested in that idea of what was seen and unseen within a painting process. I think there was always, to me, some kind of mystery behind what was in a painting, and I wanted to kind of excavate that in a certain way. I wanted to give life to the side that was unseen, but also in a way there was this sense of indecisiveness that corrupted my mind. I felt like I could never complete a work of art. So what I did was, in order to combat that, I painted on both sides. I wanted my paintings to not only be this thing that was shown one time or shown in one orientation, I wanted to be able to transform it into different scenarios. So for that reason, I began to paint the back sides of the canvas, and I call those the A side of the canvas and the B side of the canvas. So in a certain way, if my viewers come back to see the exhibition, they could actually see the back sides of the works. So, in that way, the works are beginning to transform themselves. For this exhibition at Lawmeyer Sculpture Park, I was very interested in creating large bodies of work because of this space. Along with the canvases on the walls, I have created a new series of sculptures that tower the heights of the ceilings in this gallery. I was very much interested in creating a special body of sculptures that were a new endeavor, a more challenging endeavor to speak about the architectural elements of the gallery in which I'm showing in. I've also created ceramic sculptures for this exhibition, which are in a way the same set of processes. They are torn and broken, but in a way they are also recompiled and painted with similar tendencies as my canvases. As well, for this exhibition, I was commissioned to create a flag outdoors that is actually flying right now. I am extremely interested in the ideas of not only the interior canvases and how they play with the architecture of the space, but also how my painting process moves outdoors and is informed by the weather. You can visit my exhibition, The Fabric of Our Time, now through December 17th at Lawmeyer Sculpture Park. You can also visit the exhibition online at lawmeyersculpturepark.org.
The Kendrick Smith Weekly Jazz Jam, later on Spotlight.
Growing up, I always loved animals, but I never gave much thought to birds. They were just out there. But once I started here, it was just like a 2x4 over the head that I couldn't do enough for them. Someone has to help them. So I had an injured bird at the house and realized I did everything wrong with that baby, but I contacted a friend and she told me about wild bird rehab. And so I came out here and I started volunteering, and now the rest is history. It was started by Carol Kirshner. There were a group of people at Wildlife Rescue in Baldwin, and they did everything. And she realized after years of volunteering there that the birds were being overlooked. Nobody really knew what to do with the birds, and so she took it upon herself to be educated and then started Wild Bird Rehab 30 years ago and started scrambling for volunteers. And when Carol started this, we were the only songbird hospital in the state, and unfortunately we still are.
At this time of year, we have many, many baby birds in the center. So we are feeding every 10 to 20 minutes from an incubator from various cages depending on the stage of the bird growth at this point. We also have a medical operation, so whatever birds need medical care, they're being taken care of on a regular basis several times a day with their medications. We also have an aviary, which is on the back of our property, and that's the final stage for our birds. So they go out there to get acclimated back into the wild before we're able to release them. This is very hard work, and because of the amount of time that we need to spend with the birds, it takes a lot of effort. It's not something that a lot of people might be able to do or want to do, but it's very important work for us. We get about 2,000 birds on an annual basis, and those numbers continue to grow. Climate change is real. It's a real issue for us. It's a real issue for the country and the world and our wildlife species of all kinds. We are always in need of volunteers. Our operations run almost solely on volunteers. We have 5 full-time staff people. We have to have multiple people in every room in the building to help with the feeding and the cleaning and the care. So we're always welcoming new people onto the floor and into the center. If we weren't here, there would really be no place for this community and around the state to take the native songbirds for their care. I mean, we're losing millions and millions of birds due to climate change, injuries that occur within our own yards from pets and other wildlife. If we weren't here to do this work, there would be nobody rehabbing and releasing these birds back into the environment. So we are a very big part of the conservation efforts of this community and of the state. Songbirds provide so many wonderful opportunities, I think, for us. They do provide a respite for us and some solace for us. Our flowers and our birds and our insects, our nature all works together as it was planned. And so without them, the ecosystem would also be a problem for us. I mean, can you imagine not having any birds in your yard or in your community, never hearing a bird? If we don't continue to help these birds and do this kind of work, that could be the case.
It's just wonderful to be able to see the birds return back to the wild. You know, you can see what your work is doing for the wild birds. Even if you don't care about the birds in particular, you know, we need everyone to be supported and cared for.
I sit here while I'm doing email and answering text messages and making phone calls, and I can hear all the beautiful birds' song in the room next to me at different times of the day. It's a wonderful place.
Scan the QR code on your screen to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
My name is Kendrick Smith, and I am the band leader here at the Gallery Pub for the Kendrick Smith Quartet, which has Bernard Terry on bass, Ben Dickey on drums, and Daniel Herrera on piano now. A typical Saturday evening here at the Gallery Pub, we play a whole set of music, and after that, it's where the real magic happens, where the jam session happens, and musicians from all over the world really come out and hang with us, and we fellowship, and it's different every week. Musicians from, I don't want to say just come off the street, but that's kind of it. Come off the street and we get together and we play these songs called standards, which are repertoire tunes that every musician pretty much knows, and we jam out on them. This is an art form where people are not afraid to experiment, to try things, not afraid to fail, and then come back better the next week.
I'm one of the 4 four owners of the Gallery Pub on Thurman. We have been here about a year and a half. This was formerly Thurman's and Shaw. It became a pretty well-known jazz club. We took it over in March of 2022. We wanted to retain as much of the original, I guess, vibe of the place. The music, trivia, just make it a family place here in the middle of Shaw. We started looking out at all of the bands that had been here, and one of them that was really established was the Kendrick Smith Trio. We wanted to build our music here around them. From the beginning, it was a chance for some of their students and other local musicians to come and sit in on their second set and get a chance to play in front of a crowd and, out in the public. And what it's become is one where not only do their students, some of the local musicians that just enjoyed jamming on a Saturday night, but also some of the musicians that come here to Jazz St. Louis and are playing professionally.
We've had everybody from Victor Goins to come by, Benny Green. We've had Tyler Perry's band come by, Harry Connick Jr.'s band has been by here, musicians from Tokyo. It's just all over. Come to this wonderful, small but powerful place, and it's only because, I feel that what we represent.
I have been going to the jazz jam sessions here for about a year. I think it's important for young people, young jazz musicians, to be able to have experience playing with other people at jam sessions like these, to meet other people, make connections, even get advice from older musicians. When I hear the ideas and the ways that older musicians play, it gives me ideas on ways that I could improve my playing and technique.
My favorite part about the Gallery Pub jam sessions is probably the connections with the musicians. Any jam session that Bernard and Kendrick host, there's a few. They tend to bring in a crowd of people who take it seriously and who really care about what they're doing. Even though the people who come here are really good, they're not mean, they're very approachable, and everybody, it's a nice environment. People who are here supporting everybody else who's down here and helping them set a standard. And even if you don't want to be a professional musician, even if you just want to have a garage band or just play in your room, it opens you up because you have to learn how to play with other people who you've never played with before, and you have to learn how to orchestrate things in a live environment, and you have to learn how to take risks and deal with the consequences.
Where we want to be a few years from now, maybe, is that musicians come in from all over the country to play here in St. Louis, and they want to stop by the Gallery Pub just to sit in on a song because of what Kendrick's built here.
It's beautiful that a place like the Gallery Pub offers chances for musicians to come and play and to play a music that does promote so much growth and positivity and to keep getting better.
It's really an amazing experience when you come down here on a Saturday night.
Next week, the best of Missouri Market. Find out what they sell here. Plus, the history of the St. Louis Browns. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.